Kazakhstan that Rwanda drew important lessons from being abandoned by the international community during the genocide against the Tutsi and chose to seek its own solutions without closing itself off from cooperation with the rest of the world. Prime Minister Dr. Edward Ngirente called on parents to continue supporting technical and vocational education, saying it is expected to accelerate the transformation outlined in the country's Vision 2050 development agenda. On the international scale, U.S. President Donald Trump has appeared to set a 2-week deadline for Vladimir Putin to agree to a ceasefire in Ukraine, threatening a different response if the Russian counterpart was still stringing him along. Once again, we're glad to have your company tonight, coming to you straight from the Heart of Africa, Kigali, and I bring you tonight's edition is Martina Abera. Let us start off by informing you that President Paul Kagame has told participants of the Astana International Forum in Kazakhstan that Rwanda drew important lessons from being abandoned by the international community during the genocide against the Tutsi and chose to seek its own solutions without closing itself off from the cooperation with the rest of the world. In a keynote address during the official opening of the forum, President Kagame highlighted that the development of less wealthy countries, mainly those in the global south, is often hindered by the structure of global governance and how its rules are implemented in ways that prevent these countries from accessing financing that could drive their progress.
While we push for change, we must also act with greater urgency to build resilience from within. That means managing our resources more effectively, enhancing industrial productivity, and investing in human capital development. It is encouraging to see the renewed momentum behind South-South cooperation, including between Africa and Central Asia.
He emphasized that building resilience is a priority every country should focus on, whether large or small. He cited Rwanda's experience, explaining that the country learned from the painful history of being abandoned during the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi and made the deliberate decision to rely on internal solutions.
For us in Rwanda, we learned from our history. When genocide was taking place in our country and the rest of the world looked the other way and not paying attention to what was happening, we learned that lesson, and that's how we began putting our pieces together and trying to build from within and bringing everyone to contribute and creating that level of trust that gave us an opportunity to build institutions that were accountable to our people's needs directly. But this does not stop us from cooperating with the rest of the world. In fact, we got support from a number of friends and partners. But this would not have been helpful or would not have had impact if we were not standing together ourselves and doing our part from within.
Responding to questions about global security crisis in places like Gaza, Ukraine, Sudan, and other regions, President Kagame stated that most conflicts are rooted in well-known causes, implying that addressing them requires understanding their underlying reasons.
Security is very important, and peace for any development or meaningful one to take place. But what we have also learned is that some of these conflicts have root causes. They just don't emerge from nowhere. and you have conflicts. No, there are these histories that have not been resolved over many years, and are the ones fueling conflicts over and over again. Now, what we have across the world, we find there is more paying attention to managing conflicts rather than addressing these root causes. And all you expect, therefore, you can cool down the situation, and a few months, few years later, you have the same crisis getting worse, or others emerging, branching from what you are trying to resolve.
In addition to President Paul Kagame, the forum was also attended by Kazakhstan's President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev and North Macedonia's President Gordan Siljanovska-Davkova. Prime Minister Dr. Edward Ngirente called on parents to continue supporting technical and vocational education, saying it is expected to accelerate the transformation outlined in the country's Vision 2050 development agenda. William Evans Mutawazi has the report.
Rwanda is proud to welcome skilled young professionals into the workforce.
In a total of 4,562 students that graduated today, majority of whom were male. However, the top-performing student across all the 8 colleges that make up Rwanda Polytechnic was a female student, Uwimuhe Imelin. She, like her fellow graduates, affirmed that they are leaving school with a solid preparation for the future.
I'm the graduate from Rwanda Polytechnic, from the Gishari College, specifically from the Agriculture Engineering as Department Program of Agriculture Mechanization and Technology. I have invested all my efforts and energy so that I can show the government of Rwanda that sent me in that program that all things are able when you have the willingness and power to work.
Mu minsi yashize twakoze amarushanwa wari umwanya mwiza wo kugira ngo twigaragaze.
We presented different projects trying to showcase our capabilities and skills. We are lucky that our project won and we got rewarded. We are going to use the reward to self-employ ourselves. The families of the graduates also expressed growing confidence that their children made the right choice in pursuing vacation education. I would encourage all parents to take their children to technical schools because children get hands-on training and can make a living out of their skills. The Minister of Education, Honorable Joseph Nsengimana, urged the graduates to become exemplary in their future endeavors aimed at national development and also reaffirmed the ministry's support for technical education.
As the Ministry of Education, we reaffirm our commitment to advancing Rwanda's higher education sector by expanding access, improving infrastructure, and deepening partnership with industry. We envision Rwanda Polytechnic thriving as a hub of innovation, applied research, and job talent creation.
The Right Honorable Dr. Edward Ngirente emphasized that technical and vocational education is expected to help the country achieve the transformation and development it has committed to, and he also called on everyone to contribute to that effort.
Rwanda is proud to welcome skilled young professionals into the workforce. Your fresh ideas will help drive the nation's progress. The impact of technical skills reaches every corner of the society: health, education, business, and industry, helping countries to develop and adapt to new challenges.
Over 70% of the students who graduated from Rwanda Polytechnic last year are now employed, and those who received their degrees today, 40% had already secured jobs in both public and private sectors. William Evans, RwandaTV News.
While the achievements of the graduates at Rwanda Polytechnic cannot be denied, they have nevertheless been urged to understand more still lies ahead of them and called upon to rise to the challenge.
We believe there is no limit to what our potential can be, and that's what I want you to take with you as you embark on this chapter. I know the world of work out there may feel very scary. Today, the why behind work feels more challenged than ever before in history. AI, automation, is reshaping the very essence of work and what it means to work. The gap between your passion and your day-to-day life grows wider. You wake up passionate about something, but what you can do in the workplace is very different. Finding harmony between how you show up at work, at home, and in our communities is even harder than ever. A generation now in the workforce is facing deep anxiety and economic pressure, and I can imagine how you must be feeling the day after today. Let's not take for granted the opportunity we have to do meaningful work with amazing people around us and in a place where impact is real, like here in Rwanda. We have to build, we have to grow, we have to show up for the mission of wherever you end up, whether in your business or as an employee, and hopefully that it anchors your reason of being or raison d'être. For each other, living up to our values and virtues, while staying aware that many of us are fighting invisible battles. For those who made our path possible, so we remain responsible caretakers of their legacy and pass it on to those who are coming after us. I want to reassure you that I believe in your potential. I believe you can be architects of excellence, delivering whatever you work on with incredible intelligence, dedication, and hard work. And I only wish you do it with Rwanda's Ubudasa, with passion, class, and elegance that is characterizing you today.
The Minister of Youth and Arts, Dr. Abdallah Jean Nepo Utumatkwishima, urged the youth to make the most of the training they receive by creating their own jobs or innovating through the skills they acquire. He reiterated this during the first graduation of the Youth in Apprenticeship program that awarded certificates to over 250 young people who had completed 6 months of training in tailoring and fashion design. The Deputy Resident Representative of UNDP in Rwanda, Nanati Chinbua, appreciated the commitment of those who received the training and encouraged them to make the most of the skills they have acquired.
Today's graduation is more than a ceremony. It is a celebration of a powerful idea that young people, when given the opportunity, support, and the right tools, can shape their own future and contribute meaningfully to Rwanda's development. This is particularly critical for youth not in employment, not in education, or not in training, the NEET category, as they often face the highest barriers to economic participation. It's a shining example of what it means to bridge the gap between education and employment. It fosters meaningful collaboration between the public and private sectors, with companies not only providing training, but also committing to hire graduates for a minimum of 2 years. This represents a model of sustainability and accountability that Rwanda should be proud of.
The ambassador of the European Union in Rwanda, His Excellency Belen Calvo Uyara, emphasized that this initiative demonstrates the commitment of Rwandan youth to their country and reminded them that they should play an active role in the government's development agenda, NST2, of creating 250,000 jobs per year.
Such a great pleasure to come in this afternoon, and such a great talent to intervene after this wonderful fashion show that we saw here this afternoon that represents best the talent that you have acquired in the training that you've done. So we are celebrating a very special occasion, and this is the graduation of the first cohort of the Aguka Youth Apprenticeship Program. This is a great concept that has been brought together by the Ministry of Youth, by the TVET board, precisely to deliver the skills that are needed to be fit for business, for the companies to fly and shine. So it's more than certificates and it's more than completions. It's a celebration of your courage, of your determination, of your talent, of your potential. And that's why we are here today, to mark not the end, but the beginning, to mark your expansion, as Aguka says. So as European Union, we're very pleased to partner the Ministry of Youth and Arts and UNDP to tackle youth unemployment through bold, forward-looking policies. And this approach, which is grounded in action, grounded in partnership, with a tangible impact, is something that we really value. Aguka is a transformative initiative that is part of a broader commitment to creating economic opportunities for young people across Rwanda. And what a better sector that creates opportunities than Rwanda's textile, garment and apparel industry, which is now experiencing a significant growth, bolstered by initiatives such as the Made of Rwanda policy, which was launched in 2015 and which I embed because today I'm wearing Made in Rwanda. So similarly, under the National Strategy for Transformation 2, the government plans to increase the supply of locally made garments from the current 5% to cover the entire population, potentially saving billions and reducing input, promoting local manufacturing and promoting exports. The Aguka program embodies what sustainable development should look like. It is locally led, skill-based, is market-driven, and is inclusive. And we ambition to expand to 1,500 women and men that have now gained practical demanding skill, but we keep on expanding to aim at 100,000, a key figure that we always have in mind, because this is our ambition and aspiration, to provide the skills to transform, to create jobs, to create self-employment in the country. This is all part of a broader strategy. We are working also with the hunger hubs in the secondary cities to empower youth entrepreneurs and to build a win-win cooperation, which is our partnership and which is our vision together with the government of Rwanda. I have a message for the 250 graduates here. You are the reason for us being here today. You've shown you have the talent. You've shown you have the determination. You've shown you have the vision to go forward. You're not job seekers. You are role models for your partners. You are creating the future for yourself and for companies and for the country. I wish you carry forward not only the skills that you learned, but also the confidence that you've gained through this training. The futures belong to those who are ready to shape this future. To conclude, we believe in your potential. We believe in the potential of youth to drive change, to build inclusive economies, to create more just and resilient societies, and we stand together with you as this partnership shows. So go forward with confidence, keep learning, keep building, keep dreaming. Rwanda futures and our shared global future is brighter because of you. Now you can keep up climbing the mountains. Murakoze cyane.
From May 28th to 30th in the Eastern Province's Nyagatare district, the Rwanda Defense Force and the Tanzania People's Defense Force are holding the 12th meeting of military leaders operating along the shared border, aiming to discuss security issues and strengthen cooperation in preventing cross-border crimes. The military leaders are reviewing progress made since the previous meeting, focusing on preventing illegal activities and improving security for residents living near the border. Both sides are highlighting that sustained cooperation and joint strategies are crucial in addressing the emerging security challenges. They are also emphasizing the progress being achieved, attributing it to the visionary leadership of both heads of state. Brigadier General Pascal Muhizi, commander of Rwanda's 5th Division, is expressing gratitude to the two presidents for their visionary leadership, commitment to peace, and efforts to strengthen regional unity. He is noting that this leadership is enabling strong political will and infrastructure that supports collaboration between the two armies. He is also reminding the military leaders that ensuring peace and security along the shared border is not only a duty, but a collective responsibility. Brigadier General Gabriel Elias Kwiligwa, the commander of Tanzania's 2020 Brigade and head of the Tanzania delegation, is saying that past meetings have helped resolve many issues thanks to mutual commitment and cooperation. He is pointing out that the entire border area and its surrounding communities are now living in peace and unity, achievements made possible by mutual trust, understanding and transparency. Tonight, the Embassy of Israel in Rwanda is celebrating the 77th anniversary of the country's independence, highlighting the progress made in strengthening its relations with other countries, including Rwanda, with which it now shares a special partnership across various sectors. Adam Squizera with more.
Tonight at Kigali Convention Center, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Clementine Muteka, joined the Embassy of Israel here in Rwanda in the celebration of 77 years of independence. Israel gained its independence in 1948, making this year its 77th year as a sovereign nation. The celebration in Kigali was attended by members of diplomatic corps in Rwanda, representatives of civil society, and members of Israeli community living in Rwanda. Over the past 77 years, Israel has expanded its diplomatic relations with other countries, including Rwanda, where this country has specific partnerships with Rwanda in diplomacy, health, and other areas. Adam Squizera, reporting for RwandaTV News in Kigali Convention Center.
Thank you, Adams, for that. Now, the Minister of Agriculture and Animal Resources, Dr. Mark Chubahiro Bagabe, is encouraging women and youth to actively join the livestock sector, stating that their participation significantly boosts productivity. He made this call during the opening of Continental Dairy Forum held in Kigali, which brought together over 300 livestock farmers from 15 African countries to discuss ways to increase milk production. Among the attendees were Evelyn Chona, a livestock farmer from Zambia, and Adamu Dogari from Nigeria. Both emphasized that one of the biggest challenges facing livestock farming in Africa is the high cost and limited availability of animal feed.
The challenges that should be addressed maybe is how to feed the animals. And also there are some diseases that are coming up at the moment, especially that with us in Zambia, we had a situation where there was no proper rainfall last year, so most of the animals died.
And then the good feeding is one of the key things that we have to consider, and the government of each of the African countries must help the weak ones. We have what you call ground, so to encourage them, to boost them so that they can be able to leak like lion. And that's what the challenge we have to do. And with that, I think everybody should move. We should stop waiting for white-collar jobs, the young ones. I remember in my country, Nigeria, 65% before, we are dominantly farmers, and we can do whatever we think of. But right now, we are coming back again, because if you go and study to write English, you are just writing English. Technology has passed to write English. Technology has passed to read newspaper now. So you have to go back to farm. If you're in the farm, you don't sick, you feel happy, and I think etc. That is all about.
The president of IDF is calling on farmers to learn how to adapt to the effects of climate change.
Learning, it's not, there's various models around the world, and it's not one model that will fit everyone, so it needs to be adapted to the climate, to the type of cows, to, the people you have, the consumer you have, the consumer expectations. So, and feed, of course, is a key. One of the challenges we face, in the big sustainability world is the climate change and the fluctuation and the uncertainty about weather. Going from a drought in one region to a flood in another, to fires, to this, to that. So we have to learn to cope with that and do the best we can to produce nutritious feed for the cows that will help keeping our animal as healthy as possible as well.
Despite some existing challenges in the livestock sector, Rwandan farmers say they are taking steps to increase milk production. Milk output in the country grew from 776 million litres in 2017 to 1 billion litres in 2024, while the number of milk collection centres rose from 56 to 130. Minister Dr. Bagabe also stressed the importance of ensuring milk quality across the entire value chain, from milking to final consumption. He urged all stakeholders to maintain high standards to ensure the milk remains safe and competitive on the market.
And when we come to the end of this conference, at least we've got a standard for dairy livestock management. That's what I'm begging from this meeting. I've visited farmers. Every farmer has got his own standard. So that's why I'm making that request. Adopting advanced technologies to promote genetic improvement, adequate feeds, and veterinary services can raise productivity up to 30%. Innovation is key to our region's competitiveness and sustainability. Smallholder farmers are the backbone of the dairy sector, as I have said, yet only 10 to 15% in Africa access formal training or finance. So they're the majority, and yet they face all those challenges that I've alluded to.
In 2025, Africa's dairy industry is projected to generate at least $24.25 billion in revenue. Muslims going on the holy pilgrimage to Mecca have been urged to uphold Rwandan values and pray for the country and its leadership during their journey. The pilgrims are grateful that through the collaboration between the government of Rwanda, Rwandair, and the Muslim community, they have been provided with a dedicated flight that takes them directly to the Holy Land, allowing them to focus on prayer in peace. Normally, Rwandair does not operate direct flights to Mecca, but for the safety and comfort of Rwandans, special arrangements have been made so that Muslim pilgrims are transported directly and will be flown back after the pilgrimage. This is part of the government's ongoing efforts to provide homegrown solutions to its citizens' needs.
Rwanda being a Rwandan company owned by Rwandans, we thought there would be no reason why our own Rwandan Muslim community would face challenges in their travel when we are here. So we came in to sort that challenge so that we don't do the bypasses of going through other destinations. We do the journey from Kigali direct to Jeddah, and also pick them from Medina to Kigali. So in terms of trying to support the community, the Rwandan community, being their own company.
The Mufti of Rwanda, Sheikh Musa Sindaigaya, has called on all those embarking on the pilgrimage to uphold Rwandan values and pray for the country and its leaders while in the Holy Land.
They need to understand that is a sacred journey to Mecca to perform their pilgrimage. So we remind them to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Secondly, to respect one another among themselves. Secondly, we remind them also that the holy cities of Mecca and Medina, it's a place where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds to our prayers. So we remind them to pray for our nation, to pray for our sustainability, to pray for our also stability for our nation and our leaders, especially for His Excellency Paul Kagame, the President of the Republic of Rwanda, and his family.
Moments. Laying hoops. Giving away. Making moves. Inyange is always there. Whatever the occasion, whatever the moment, always ask for Inyange.
Nyiri muto arababwiraga data bati ntabwo wagira umukamo mwinshi utunze inka imwe, ariko nigeze acika intege. Mama akinjira mu bucuruzi hari abamubwiraga bati ntabwo watera imbere udakorera mu iduka rigezweho, ariko ntibyamusubije inyuma, yakoranaga umwete. Njya muri kaminuza hari abanshidikanyagaho bavuga ko ntashobora kaminuza naturuka mu muryango wifashije, ariko byaragiye nanditse amateka mashya. Igihe cyo gutera ishema umuryango wanjye kigeze, bamwe bakomeje kumbwira bati ntabwo watera umuryango wawe ibyishimo n'ishema, ariko narabishoboye. Hari abakekaga ko nasigira umurage ukomeye abankomokaho, ariko ubu mfite uruganda rutunganya amata. Banki ya Kigali yabaye umufatanyabikorwa wanjye mu rugendo rwose, inzozi zanjye ziba impamo. Bigereho.
Welcome back to other stories making headlines on the international scene. Heading over to Ukraine, the U.S. President Donald Trump has appeared to set a 2-week deadline for Vladimir Putin to agree to a ceasefire in Ukraine, threatening a different response if the Russian counterpart was still stringing him along. The president's comments came after the Kremlin escalated its attacks on Ukraine. BBC News with more.
If it's a deadline, it's not particularly a hard deadline because they've said it before. Donald Trump's own Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, on the 4th of April, I think, he said, we'll find out soon enough, in a matter of weeks, whether Russia is serious about peace. And it looks like they still don't know, almost 8 weeks later. And there's nothing in Russia's actions or rhetoric that would suggest that they are even considering stopping attacks on Ukraine. In fact, yesterday, the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, he voiced another demand for Ukraine to meet. He said Russia wants Ukraine to amend its legislation. So this list of demands, it's growing. Russia's still saying that it intends to capture more territory in Ukraine, at least the 4 regions that it partly controls. It still wants to discuss what it calls the root causes of the crisis. So nothing's changed there. And also, let's not forget, Martin, that on the 12th of May, Russia was supposed to cease fire, according to demands voiced by Ukraine's allies from the coalition of the willing. So all these deadlines, they came and went and nothing happened. So hardly an incentive for Vladimir Putin to cease fire.
So how much more likely is it that Volodymyr Zelensky will decide to lean more on his European allies than the United States?
Well, lean is what he can try to do. He's been gently and politely calling on the United States to exert more pressure on Russia. And following last weekend's devastating aerial attacks on Ukraine, record-breaking attacks, he said it's the silence of America and other countries that enables those attacks. And that statement triggered an outburst from Donald Trump, who said, I don't like anything that's coming out of Volodymyr Zelensky's mouth. That's a quote. So the Ukrainian president has been trying to get Ukraine's allies to take some action, but so far nothing they've taken has been able to stop the Russians. In fact, this morning I've been looking at reports of more people killed in Ukraine in aerial attacks. One 68-year-old man in Sumy and 5 glide bombs dropped in a village in Zaporizhzhia region. So those attacks, they just continue.
The EU has shown record low energy use amidst efficiency gains and renewable surge. The union's gross available energy fell by 4.1% in 2023, but Europe is now doing more with less. Renewables now supply 19.5% of energy, with Nordic countries leading the transition. Euronews with the details.
Energy use is dropping, so how is Europe managing to do more with less?
In 2023, EU gross available energy fell by 4.1%, a record low. Efficiency gains and a switch to renewables are helping the bloc meet demand, while also using less fuel. Sweden, Finland and Denmark lead the green transition, with renewables covering 40 to 50% of their energy mix. Poland and Czechia remain coal-reliant, where solid fuels still supply roughly a third of demand. Across the bloc, fossils dominate 67% of supply. Yet renewables now trail natural gas by less than 1 percentage point. Since 2013, renewable output has surged 31%, while gas use fell 7% from 2022 to 2023. Europe still imports most of its fuel, with 95% of oil and 90% of gas coming from outside the bloc, leaving overall dependency on imports at 58%. Nuclear accounts for about an eighth of supply, led by France and Slovakia, while transport guzzles the most energy at 32% of final demand, followed by households at roughly 26% and industry at about 25%. Overall, the average European now consumes 16% less energy than in 1990.
And that Euronews story marks the end of our bulletin. Before we close off, let's have a recap of our headlines. President Paul Kagame has told participants at the Astana International Forum in Kazakhstan that Rwanda drew important lessons from being abandoned by the international community during the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. Prime Minister Dr. Edouard Ngirente called on parents to continue supporting technical and vocational education, saying it is expected to accelerate the transformation outlined in the country's Vision 2050 development agenda. On the international scale, U.S. President Donald Trump has appeared to set a 2-week deadline for Vladimir Putin to agree to a ceasefire in Ukraine, threatening a different response if the Russian counterpart is still stringing him along. And on that note, on behalf of the news production team as well as the technical team, thank you for sticking with us on RTV News. My name is Martina Avera, and up until next time, stay safe and have a good night.
turabasuhuje kandi tubahaye ikaze ku makuru y'iteganyagihe